Have you ever played an underwater section in a Sonic game and had the drowning music kick on and kick you into fight or flight mode, give you a moment of panic where you feel like I just have to find oxygen, I have to find oxygen, and you're looking around and you see an oxygen bubble and you go towards it, but you're so panicked that you take the wrong path or you miss it or you hit something else that kills you and you don't end up getting to that oxygen, even though if you were calm, you probably could have. I want to talk about moments like this today. The moments in games that make you hurry, and then the times in game development or in life where you feel the urge to hurry and to get everything done quickly. And as part of this, and the theme of this episode, I also want to tell you about a change in this podcast. I will be changing to monthly episodes. More on that later, but I think that it will help me create better quality episodes and even just have a little bit more to chew on for each episode, have a little more substance to it. Whether or not it's the same length is a whole other thing. I just think it'll improve some quality things. But anyway, we're talking about some games, we're talking about hurrying in development, and we're just going to enjoy a couple games in the process. This is Game, Develop, Repeat. I'm your host, Chris, and as always, thank you for joining me. Timers are extremely powerful, especially in underwater levels and moments in games where you feel like you're going to drown, right? We kicked it off talking about Sonic. It immediately reminded me of Subnautica and the running out of oxygen mechanic in that game. It is very impactful to feel like I have to get oxygen within a certain period of time or else I am done. I am toast. I am dead. I'm losing all my progress. That's a pretty effective way of making a player feel like they have to hurry. Another element of this is not a literal timer. This is maybe my preference, by the way. Not a literal timer, but a sense of pressure. This is Warcraft 3. This is a competitive match where you know that if you do not utilize every moment that you have to its most effective possible utilization, you're doomed. If you do not really power through this and get everything you can out of it, the other player will, and they will crush you. This happens in really anything competitive. Shooters have this aspect. There's an element of pressure. If I don't get there first, somebody else will. I like that more than an artificial timer, but an artificial timer can be pretty fun. Now, this on its own does not create that sensation of hurrying. Right now I'm thinking not about a racing game, but about a racing mini game. A lot of racing games are good at just making you go fast without necessarily hurrying, but there's a mini game in Final Fantasy X where you are trying, if you want to get one of the ultimate weapons, to finish a chocobo race before the timer hits, with the timer being below 0. And this is a weird kind of hurrying, and that's why I want to mention that as an example. It does give you a certain amount of stress. It does give you a certain amount of, I've got to get this done, I've got to get this done, I've got to get this done. But it is not as satisfying. It's like an infuriating hurry up. It's like a frustrating, annoying, somebody on your shoulder, you got to go faster, with like an abstract and hard to target goal. In Subnautica, you know instantly whether or not you're going to make it. You have a very good sense of whether or not you can make it. There's a skill that you can develop of, okay, I've got another 2 seconds of air and I'm safe. In Sonic, you can track the music, you can listen how much faster and more panicked it's getting, and as it gets more panicked, you get more panicked, and then boom, I got to oxygen in time, or I died and I learned my lesson. There are clear signals. In this frickin' minigame, in Final Fantasy X, there is not a clear signal. There is a timer which decreases whenever you get, like, I think it's a balloon. Whenever you hit a certain consumable, the chocobo moves with some randomness, and the balloon layout is somewhat random. So you have to hit these balloons, and you have to hit them enough that your race time, the time it took you to complete the course, you have to hit them quickly enough, and you have to hit enough of them that time is below 0. It cannot be 0 flat. Kind of an interesting mechanic, kind of complicated, kind of cool, kind of really bad feedback, right? Because now you've got all of these different levels of math that you have to do, even if it's consistent, even if every single balloon gives you, let's say, 2 seconds. I'm using numbers off the top of my head because I can't be bothered to look into these precise details of this right now. Also part of why I'm going to just start doing monthly episodes so I have more time for that sort of thing. But just so you can calculate that out in your head, even if it's 2 seconds per balloon, now you've got this layer of mental abstraction. Instead of having this like fundamental kind of life-altering, life or death feeling, this feeling of I have to do this goal right now or else I'm going to drown. Instead of that, you have I need to get rid of this many seconds, and like, am I gonna get it or not? Like, how many balloons are left between me and the goal, and like, do I have this stage mapped out? Is the chocobo going to turn randomly between here and there? And you're in a rush, sure, but you're not having a clear understanding of the stakes, so the rush is weird. There's this clarity of stakes that comes with a Sonic drowning level or with a drowning moment in Subnautica. The clarity of stakes, even though technically they're very clear, is clouded in a chocobo racing thing from Final Fantasy X. It's clouded because there's just too many little things that you do not feel, that you do not instinctively know. Like, you can know something, sure. That's great. I understand it. But that doesn't mean that it has a real impact. So that is very, very interesting to me as a designer. If there's a timer going and it has like 3 seconds on the clock, I'm invested. We're in trouble, typically. And if it's just consistently going down and there's no way to push it back up, okay, cool. Solid, I'm invested, got to get this done within the next 3 seconds or else penalty. I would rather have the timer be displayed via a real world consequence. So I would rather than having a timer, I would want the left side of the level slowly moving towards me with a wall of blades, and I have to outrun it, right? That's a timer. But it's clear. I would want the sand in the bottom of a pit filling up slowly and eventually blocking my exit and then pushing me towards the ceiling where I inevitably die of being crushed by sand or running out of oxygen or whatever. A little dark, but, so be it. Games, life or death, a lot of the time is a good set of stakes. What I'm getting at here is even if you've got a really rock solid timer that you are using to try to make the player hurry and rush and feel some sense of pressure, it will not have the same type of impact or same level of impact as real world stakes. Obviously, none of this is a real world stake, sure, but real world within the world of the video game. This connects, in my mind, to things like rage games. I've been thinking about rage games a lot. You've heard me mention them a lot on this podcast lately because there's such clear emotional stakes in rage games. They have a very real consequence. The standing on the edge of something feeling that you get when playing Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy is so heavily magnified by the fact that you will literally fall off of this mountain and have to climb back up the whole thing, in the way that drowning magnifies the sensation of, I have to get this done in time. So what other ways could we make a player feel rushed, make them feel like they have to hurry up or else they're doomed. Well, what other games do we have as examples? We talked about Warcraft 3 and the way that it puts time pressure on you through competition. We've talked about that whole concept of competition speeding up your mental process, making you feel like you have to hurry, making you feel like you really have to get it done. What about competing with the game itself rather than with other players? This has me thinking about Tetris. Tetris is a game where you have to quickly figure out what you are doing, and there is an implicit timer, and you have to solve this puzzle within a certain period of time, and you have to drop pieces quickly, and you're trying to get as high of a score as you can, so on, within a very tight set of constraints. And it has that same feeling. It has that same sense of go, 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 quick. But you can't panic. If you panic while playing Tetris, you're done. So you've kind of got to train yourself not to. Chess. Now, this is also something where you're competing against other players, but if you're playing chess with a tight timer, you're competing with chess itself as a game more than you're competing with the other player, right? There's kind of a puzzle in front of you, and let's be honest, unless you're at a pretty high level, you're not really predicting what the other player is going to do, or maybe you know them quite well. You're not really making your plays based on what you think they're going to do. Initially, you're making your plays based on what's possible, what is clear and obvious, what could happen to you in the next couple of moves. Are you leaving any pieces hanging? Can you figure that out within however many seconds you have before your timer gets unacceptably low? So that is a longer form of time management, but it is a level of stress that I do not experience much in many games. All right, so let's tighten this up, see if we're missing any obvious ones that we can talk about. We got war strategy, competition with other people, shooters, games like Sonic and Subnautica, especially drowning mechanics. I barely mentioned racing. Maybe we talk about that more. And we got Tetris. Racing is interesting, isn't it? I mean, we talked about the Final Fantasy X thing with all these abstractions of feeling like you should rush and how it just doesn't quite deliver on it in a way that I would like. It's too complicated. There's too much complexity for you to really feel your emotions on it. And I'm not saying the mechanics can't be complex, but I'm saying the way they're presented to the player needs to feel kind of simple if it's going to have a hard-hitting emotional impact. Like, there needs to be a fundamental thing that's very easy to understand. And a racing game generally invites a fundamental, simple understanding. Now, time trials are a little less straightforward, I think, emotionally, than competition. If you got somebody racing next to you, side by side, let's imagine a foot race for a moment, just as a way to paint this picture. If you and another guy are racing side by side and you see him start to edge ahead of you, you've got the motivation in you. You're going, whoa, 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 whoa. Nope, you're not getting ahead of me. This is one of the reasons why it's probably so common. I'm overstating my knowledge of this, but I'm assuming that this is one of the reasons why it's so common for people to go way too fast at the beginning of a marathon and burn themselves out, because everybody is side by side and everybody wants to be front of the pack. You can't do that, because then you're going to run out of all your energy, and then whoops, competitive spirit took over a little bit. Now I don't have it anymore as all these people pass me. Now, in a foot race, side by side with one friend, you got that dog in you. You really want to rip into it. You want to go faster than them. You want to beat them. If you were just told before the foot race, hey, you need to get this far in this many seconds, unless it's very short and you know your distance pretty well, that's a lot less motivating. If somebody goes, hey, your buddy ran this race in 5 minutes. Okay, cool. I'm going to try to beat 5 minutes. You can kind of keep track of that. If somebody tells you your buddy ran this race in 30 minutes, you gotta like have an elaborate way of tracking it. You're not gonna feel 30 minutes for the race. Not really. Not unless you're very experienced. So if they're right side by side with you and they're currently running that 30-minute thing and you got to get ahead of them, okay, sick. That I think is the more emotional game mechanic. That is the more impactful and fun and engaging game mechanic, the one where you see the stakes right in front of you. This is why I think in racing games we have time trials where you have a ghost car that races that you got to keep ahead of. You can see your old time, you can see what turns you were making, and you can race with it. You maybe, was it previous lap? I'm trying to remember what game I saw this thing in and how exactly they implemented it. I think they showed you your previous lap as you were doing one, or they showed you the last, like your high record, high score. Anyway, showing the time to beat turn by turn is much more interesting and compelling and educational than just giving a raw leaderboard and a raw time, especially if it's running side by side with you. So racing games, I don't know that I had like a clear, specific thought about how they make it feel like you have to hurry, but I do think there's a lot of stuff we can learn from them, right? There's the competition element, like other games, is get to the end before somebody else does and maybe sabotage them a little bit in the process. We've all played Mario Kart or something like it. And then there's the element of just trying to beat your old time, but the more complete set of feedback of seeing your time side by side, I think has more of an impact than just having an abstract number and going, where did I go wrong? Why didn't I make it? And then here's one last thing. Sometimes a big picture timer, a big abstract goal, makes somebody feel rushed when in reality, they don't need to feel rushed at all. I had this with Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy VIII gives you a timer. It says, pick what timer you want, which is evil of them. You got to finish this cavern by the time the timer is over. And I go, okay, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean I need to get in and out by the end of the timer? How deep is this cavern? I don't know anything about it, and I'm going into it for the first time, and you're asking me how long it's going to take me. All right, I guess I'll pick the longest time, and then I'll go as fast as I can, because this is a video game. Surely even the longest time is somewhat challenging. Nah. Nope, not even close. So that was a very weird thing in that game, but it made me feel rushed when there was absolutely no need to feel rushed. And that is a perfect segue into what I want to talk about in terms of game development and rushing creative projects. It's typically very obvious from the outside when you see somebody hurrying or rushing or in a panic, right? How many times have you seen somebody just absolutely freaking out about nothing and going, why are they in such a rush? Why are they in such a panic? But the moment that they pull you into that vortex with them a little bit, you start to lose sight of the panic, or you go, God, why are they making me hurry? But you get pulled into it a little bit and it becomes a little less obvious. Or if you're the one rushing, if you're the one hurrying, it feels like it's the only option. You're hurrying because you have to. You're panicked because it's important and necessary and there's no other way to handle this. You must do it as fast as possible. And I'm developing a different understanding of what this looks like for me and what this looks like in my creative process. I have noticed that while I generally consider myself to be somebody who takes time to figure it out and then gets it done right, there are absolutely times when I jump the gun. And I noticed this by seeing other people take their time in moments when I thought, we've got a solution, let's just do it. And then they come up with a better solution that saves us a lot of time and energy and effort and creates a superior result. And that made me go, oh, wait, I was hurrying. I was rushing. I had this feeling in me going, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? And it wasn't just impatience. It wasn't just confusion. It was, we got to get this done. I'm under the vague timer. I'm under some kind of big, broad Final Fantasy 8 or Final Fantasy 10 timer that is like complicated and a little bit hard to understand. And it's just important that I get there and get it done, because who knows what the rules of this timer are. This is not a Subnautica timer. This is not a, oh, we're going to drown if we don't blah, blah, blah. This is there's probably some vague penalty in the future for not getting this done fast enough. There's probably some vague thing wrong with not accomplishing this in time. And that is a weird little sensation. And it drives me to be an idiot. it's I don't know that there's another way to put it, because it drives me to be just a little stupid. And I noticed it in such a distinctive way, and I went, "Oh, I got to keep an eye on that. That seems bad. That seems tricky. That seems sneaky. That seems like it's going to make a lot of problems in my life." And if I see other people do it, I notice it immediately. If someone else is rushing, if someone else is skipping to a solution when I clearly know we need a little more time, we don't have enough information, or we just need to look at this for a second longer and see if we figure out some alternative path. We haven't thought this through clearly, and someone else is rushing to a solution. I see that crystal clear. But if I'm the one hurrying to the solution, I don't see it at all. And I'm wondering how to navigate that. I'm wondering if that comes from an information gap on the part of the person who's rushing. If that comes from a place where you're thinking, no, I know everything about this. This is the only option. Let's go. Or if it comes from a place of like, well, we have a solution, so let's just go. What's the point in waiting? Now, those are both reasonable guesses, and I'm sure it depends from situation to situation. But what I would really like, is a way to ensure that anytime that I feel that instinct to go, get it done, I'm able to give myself just that little bit of time to say, hey, not yet. Hey, hold on a sec. We got something important to do here, so let's make sure that we get it done right. Or even if it doesn't feel that important in this moment, we've got something relatively foundational. Something else is going to be built on top of this, so let's make sure that we get it done right. And take the time to revisit whatever we need to revisit and look at other possibilities and switch things up. There's a difference between this and just procrastinating or just chewing the fat, right? But I think there's a way to notice what that difference is. Let me speak a little more practically about what this looks like in my game development and what it might look like for you in terms of actually developing games if you're similar to me. For me, this looks like implementing a design for a game after only creating one draft for the design of the game. I did this recently with my weird little Kanye-inspired game where I went, okay, this is like a tug-of-war thing. And I made the whole tug-of-war thing. And then after I made that, I looked at it again and I went, wait, I have a better idea. And instead of going, well, let's just build something on top of the tug-of-war and so on, I went, I got to get rid of the tug-of-war thing and just put in the better idea. So I did that, and it was nice. It was good. Now, I could have come up with a couple different drafts for what would make a good Kanye based whatever the heck this idea is. It's like a try to keep him from saying something crazy simulator. And one idea was a tug of war between like trying not to and him running towards saying the crazy thing. And then the other version that I wanted to implement was just like a word in his mind getting bigger and bigger by you pressing space, right? Like you press space to like build up the resistance to whatever crazy thing he's about to say. So just like don't say it, right? And I didn't think of the spacebar version. I then tried it and I liked it. I had done the other one. It was a lot more complicated to put together. And I went, at this moment, I'm not really feeling like doing what I need to do to make this feel a little more satisfying. It's a little too much for this particular project. I want to reduce it. What's a version of this that would work? Oh, I really like this idea of text font that's getting bigger. Cool, let's try that. Now, as a project, I don't really have a problem with the fact that I rushed into the Tug of War version because I learned a bunch of cool stuff and it was interesting and I tried it out. Had I not rushed into it, I would have learned a bunch of other cool stuff and it would have been interesting and I would have tried it out. It would have been design-based learning instead of design-focused instead of programming and implementation-focused learning. So I'm cool. I wanted to do some implementation more than I wanted to do some design. So fair enough. But if I were working on a much bigger project, I think it would be essential for me to create multiple drafts of the design, decide which ones I'm most interested in implementing and going after it. And this is related to the podcast too. I think for each episode, once I hit an idea, I go, okay, that is the idea. I have a feeling of certainty. And I pursue that feeling of certainty. I go, there it is. How many times in your life have you been certain about something and then been completely wrong? So many. And I feel strong feelings of certainty pretty frequently in my life, in my creative life, in general. And I think that that might be the cue to be a little bit more patient and to not hurry. Because for me, and this might be a me thing, I'm curious actually if anybody shares this trait. For me, the moment that I feel certain is when I'm ready to just hurry. If I go, I know what the solution is. I know what I want to do. Okay, boom, done. Let's get this done. Let's resolve this. Move on to the next thing. There's a delicate balance there because completely avoiding certainty altogether in life and never feeling certain about anything is a recipe for indecision. But I do think there's an alternative path. There's a middle way here that is feel certain, go, okay, that is an invitation for me to test some ideas, not a definite conclusion for the perfect project or the perfect whatever. It is, I am certain that this is worth experimenting with, not I am certain that this is the solution to whatever the heck. I don't think this is just a game development lesson. I feel very certain that this is a wide-spanning life lesson for me. And I think that it's something that is generalizable. I think generally speaking, the feeling of certainty is a little bit dangerous and should be interpreted as an invitation to find out whether or not you are right. It should be a hypothesis, right? We're going scientific method on this rather than be a conclusion. Just because you feel certain doesn't mean that you're right. Matter of fact, feeling certain just means you got a really cool idea that you ought to explore. Now, experience can back up certainty and make it solid. Make it something that you go, okay, I genuinely listen. I've been here. I've done this. That's a different kind of certainty. Here is my question for you this week, followed by a kind of an invitation to an experiment. It's not something I'm tracking. It's just something I'm trying out, and maybe you might like to too. The question is, what games can you think of that have made you feel hurried that I did not mention? And this I would very much like for you to talk about on the Discord. What games make you feel hurried? And the invitation is create a little space so that when you feel certain about something, you have room to experiment with it rather than jump into it and say, no, I know that this is the solution, so this is what I'm going to do. No, give yourself this extra room so that when you feel certain, you have just that that chance to go, but what if I am wrong? Let's experiment. Let's find out for sure. That's what I'm going to be trying to do, and I'm saying it as though it's an instruction. I'm giving myself that instruction. If you're interested in running the same experiment, now you know what I'm trying to do. Not the most specific experiment I've ever given, kind of a mindset-based one, but whatever. Sometimes that's how it goes. Okay, what's going on with podcast release schedule? I'm going to be doing every month. Let's go with the first of the month. Let's do it that way. First Monday of the month. How about that? Let me look. Yep. Yeah, let's do the first Monday of every month. Let's just go with that. That makes it easy for me. All right. First Monday of every month, we'll put up an episode. By we, I mean me. And I'll see how that runs. I think that will give me room to hit an idea, think that it's great, think that it's solid, and then revisit it and go, no, actually, Chris, you're making a ton of assumptions and it's kind of dumb, and maybe we need to test it and play with it a little bit. Maybe I end up doing that, maybe I don't. I don't know. This is an experiment. It felt certain to me as soon as I came up with it. And you know what I am certain about? It's worth doing the experiment. So rather than weekly episodes, you're getting one every month, first Monday of the month, until I decide whether or not the experiment was a success. That is that for this week. This was... well, I just almost did a completely different outro. I was going to give you this whole like almost corporate feeling outro of like, this has been Game Develop Repeat. No, that's everything that I've got for you this week. Go run some experiments, man. All right? Get out there, make some stuff, and have fun with it. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.